Hello friends, let's talk about how poor Montenegrins live. I've been living in Montenegro for many years, and throughout all these years I've heard our fellow countrymen say that Montenegrins are all so poor, working for laughable wages, and that a salary of 500 euros here is almost the ultimate dream. Let's take a look at whether that's really the case. I'll say right away that no, it's not. Montenegrins are not as poor as many Russians think. Yes, I agree with the statement that Montenegro lags behind some European countries, although by no means all of them. We need to remember why things turned out this way. Let me remind you that the country went through a wild 1990s. Yes, there were wild 90s here too. And they were 100 times scarier than in Russia. There was a civil war here, international economic sanctions, not like those against Russia, but much more severe. And then the subsequent deployment of NATO troops. In short, things were really bad here. It's enough to say that inflation in those years was 3% per minute. Russia never even dreamed of a situation like that. And yet, despite all of this, by 2023 Montenegro had caught up in terms of living standards with other Eastern European countries and even surpassed some of them, for example, Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, Bosnia and Albania, where, by the way, many of these countries did not experience such terrible 90s as Montenegro did. So how much do Montenegrins earn these days? Let's take a look. I'll start with pensions. Currently, the minimum pension in Montenegro is 282 euros. I agree, that's not much. Although, by the way, that's more than in our homeland. The average pension for Montenegrins is 405 euros. The main political party, which received either 25 or 26% of the votes in the last election, I can't remember exact promises, that the minimum pension will soon be raised to 450 euros. Now, about salaries. The minimum wage in the country is 450 euros, but almost no one actually receives that amount. Well, maybe some of the lowest paid jobs, I don't know, like a garbage collector, maybe they get that much. No one really knows the average salary in the country, because despite all the successes of European integration, many people still get paid under the table. Official statistics show an average salary of about 800 euros. But because of the practice of paying under the table, these numbers are clearly much lower than the reality. I think the average salary in the country is about 1,000 euros, maybe even a little more. It's quite possible to find a steady year-round job that pays between 1,000 and 1,300 euros a month. But here's an example, let me remind you. This is one of the lowest paid jobs. Right now, it's the season and many people are taking on seasonal work. And this year, I've noticed that a lot of teenagers are working. There used to be noticeably fewer of them working before. And the salary is actually quite decent. I ask people, how much do you make? They say 700, 800 euros plus tips. So for one of the lowest paid jobs, like a waiter, the salary is already 700 or 800 euros plus tips. In the end, it will be over 1,000. It should be noted that the average salary in Montenegro is not like in our country, where statistics just draw up some numbers that almost no one actually sees. Here it's a real average salary, and it's what the majority of Montenegrins actually earn. The main party has set a goal to raise the minimum wage in Montenegro to 700 euros. As we know from Montenegro's recent past, raising the minimum wage has a very strong and very rapid effect on increasing the average wage. When the minimum wage was raised here in 2022, the average wages didn't just go up, they jumped. In other words, there was a very noticeable increase. Accordingly, if the minimum wage is raised to 700 euros again, the average wage will also rise. If these plans are implemented, then I do believe they will better and Montenegro will catch up with and maybe even surpass several other European countries in terms of living standards. For example, in the Czech Republic, the minimum wage is about the same, around 700 euros. But here, it would also be good to talk about the labor market. Many people are convinced there's this common prejudice among Russians. The first prejudice, as I already mentioned, is that supposedly all Montenegrins work for very little money. The second prejudice is that there is only seasonal work in the country. This is complete nonsense in reality. Why did such an assumption arise? Because many Montenegrins, not just Montenegrins, but also many foreigners who come to Montenegro either for seasonal work or to live permanently don't want to work at a regular permanent job. Well, probably not everyone, but there is a certain portion who do. I can't express the exact percentage of such people, but they do exist. I'll explain why this happens, why people prefer seasonal work over permanent jobs. Often, you can get a seasonal job and by working hard from dawn to dusk for 5 months straight without weekends or holidays, earn as much money as you would in a whole year of regular work. And then you can spend half a year sitting in cafes, drinking coffee, and telling your friends stories about how you'd love to work full time, but just can't seem to find a job. This is despite the fact that there are job openings everywhere and not just seasonal ones. Let me give you an example. I have an acquaintance, a Montenegrin, who last season was piloting a large boat with tourists. I don't know the exact capacity, but visually it looked like it could hold about 50 to 60 people, so in short, a large boat, not just some little dinghy. In half a season, he earned 25,000 euros. He worked hard from morning till night, 7 days a week. Now he has a permanent job on another boat. The contract is for 12 months with an 8-hour workday and 2 days off per week, but they only pay 200,000 euros a month. So over the course of a year, he'll earn 14,400 euros. There's also a tipping system there. You can expect to get an additional 3,000 to 4,000 euros a year from tips. So in total, it turns out that over the course of a year, he'll earn about 18,000 euros for a whole year of work. But last year, he earned 25,000 euros just during the season. Do you see the difference? Here are two real-life examples from the life of one Montenegrin. My friend decided that working at a reasonable pace suited him better. He may earn a little less, but at least he'll have weekends off, an 8-hour workday, and so on. But many people make a different choice. Many prefer to work hard for 5 months, because first of all they'll earn more, and secondly they'll then get a 6 or 7 month vacation. There are job openings literally everywhere. It's very easy to see for yourself. Just come here, walk along the promenade, and you'll find that in every second, or maybe not every second, but at least every third establishment, there's definitely a sign saying help wanted. The only people not working are those who don't want to. And people who don't want to work in Montenegro exist everywhere, in any country, including Montenegro itself. For example, a person without ambition. There are plenty of such people in every country, again, including among Montenegrins. Someone might not want to work if they're making enough money to get by. Not everyone dreams of a good life, and not everyone is willing to work hard for it. Such people might earn an income, for instance, by renting out property. Or, for example, the husband works while the wife doesn't, she takes care of the household or something like that. And generally, such people often don't work. They turn to employment agencies, to the labor exchange, and receive benefits. As a result, the statistics end up showing certain unemployment figures. This is despite the fact that employers are forced to invite staff from abroad, because in Montenegro they often find only 50% of the workers they need. Without bringing in foreigners, they can't open their hotels and restaurants. If you speak at least a little Serbian, even just a bit well, take a look at articles on this topic. All employers unanimously say that in Montenegro they can find at most 50% of the workers they need. Well, I'm talking about large employers here. Obviously, if you only need 1 or 2 employees, you'll find them in Montenegro. But if you need 50 people, then that becomes a very big problem. So essentially, there is no unemployment in the country, but there is specialized unemployment in certain sectors. For example, there might be a citizen living in the country, Ivan Petrovic, who was an engineer in some rare field and worked at the company Horns and Hooves, and then something happened. Either the company shut down or Ivan Petrovic was laid off. He can't find a job in the same specialty because it's rare and nobody needs it. He could easily lower his standards and find some other job, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants to work strictly in his own specialty. There are no jobs in his specialty, in his region. This is a type of unemployment that can exist, but if a person doesn't set such restrictions, insisting on working only as a certain kind of engineer, he will find a job, and he'll find one quickly, even a year-round job. As for seasonal work, during the season, especially if you know, say, Montenegrin or English, I think you can find a job in a single day, literally. So friends, that's basically all I have. Thank you all for your attention. Goodbye, everyone.